Hello and welcome to DFS Coach Talk. It's Friday, December the 10th, 2021. I am Joe Sarvati, affectionately known as Coach, and I am here to discuss tonight's NBA Main Slate. We've got 9 games on both Draftkings and Fanduel, and then later we have the Yahoo slate pop in there with a 7-game main slate. We will be going over all 9 games here on this podcast and really appreciate everybody joining. I know it's a busy Friday. Believe it or not, 2 weeks from today is Christmas Eve. Say what? Yeah, exactly. We better get some gifts done and get some things happening here because in 2 weeks, it is Christmas Eve. Amazing. Wild day here in Dallas too. We're supposed to set an all-time record for 86 degrees 2 weeks before Christmas, basically. Very bizarre, but we'll see what happens. Hopefully it stays nice and warm. All right, excited today to get into this slate. One thing I want to ask as we start this podcast is, and again, this is not the norm, but I want to get this out there too. When you're listening to the pod, give us a quick thumbs up, subscribe button on YouTube. And then what I'm asking for today is just a comment on our podcast as far as what we're delivering. If you love what we're delivering now, let us know that. If you have some suggestions of other things that you'd like to see added into the podcast, this is a great time to do that. Stuff that you don't think is important that you want deleted, let us know that too. Ultimately, I've tried to fine tune this podcast down to what I think can have the most punch to help all of our listeners build those winning lineups. But if there's stuff that I'm missing or stuff that I'm including that's not necessary, I would love to hear from our listeners. I mean, we do for all of you gals out there, and what we're trying to do most is make sure that we're getting you exactly what you want and that you're going to tune in and listen to us every day. This is all in front of the paywall. Again, 7-day-a-week NBA coverage. And, we want to grow this channel. So, let me know exactly what you do or do not want. If you want it to stay the same and you enjoy what we're producing, then just let us know that too. And then, let some people know to also listen in. We want to definitely grow this. And on YouTube is really key for it. Also, if you're listening to us audio-wise, anywhere a podcast can be heard, we're everywhere. Let some people know that. Also, shoot us a 5-star and a comment there. Same thing as we're doing with YouTube viewers and listeners. If you're just on the audio side and you're on Apple Podcasts or whatever, give us that rating. Let us know, hey, Coach, can you add this? Or, we don't really need this. Or we like, what's going on now. So that's my big ask today on this busy Friday. I know we get a lot of listeners to join in, and I just want to fine tune and make this show as perfect as we can to really get everybody to enjoy it and to help them win. And then also, when you put some winners together from our podcast, let us know. We'd love to show some love and announce those here on the podcast each day. So let us know how that goes. So appreciate that a lot. That really does mean a lot. If you want to join us here at Coach Talk, Friday's always a cool day to do our 3-day pass. It's only $10. Just go to dfscoachtalk.com. If you get that 3-day pass, you get all of our basketball and football all weekend. Sunday's football mania, and then today, great 9-game slate. We have a 7-game slate on Saturday, and then both basketball and football on Sunday. All right, we're going to get into this, and I love this slate. And believe it or not, the very first game on the slate is the highest total. That almost never happens. It's just it's going to be very interesting because it is a game where all the statistics we really look at really do match up here. So it is the Sacramento Kings and the Charlotte Hornets. Sacramento only favored by 1, so you've got that check mark. Very close game. 231.5 on the total, which we never see 230 games in this NBA. Then how about this? We look for two teams over 110 on the total anymore. How about two implied totals of Sacramento 116.25, Charlotte 115.25? I do not believe we've had this happen this season, and I do these every day. So how much is too much in this game? Maybe a time to really step to the table. Even more stats, though, that are going to make you intrigued here. Sacramento comes in at 11-14, Charlotte 14-13. Injuries, Rashawn Holmes out for Sacramento. That's important news. And then big news all over the place. A who's who for Charlotte. You have Ball, McDaniels, Plumlee, Rozier, and Smith. So 4 starters and then a good guard off the bench, all out for Charlotte. Yet this game is the feature game on the slate as far as DFS goes. But it makes perfect sense. Let's back those up with the numbers. How about pace? Sacramento 3rd, Charlotte 2nd. That speaks to us. That you're not going to get much better than that. Offensive efficiency, Sacramento middle of the pack at 16, which isn't bad. It's improved since Gentry took over. Charlotte 4th. Again, 4 starters being out isn't going to help that, but these bench players have really been scoring the basketball. And then defensively, these teams are horrible, 26th and 29th respectively. So we've got so many opportunities to roster guys here, and you really may need to do it. I don't think you can fade this game or just do a one-off. It's too juicy, man. It has got too much impact. So I'm probably going to have 2-3 guys minimum from this game, even though it's a 9-game slate. And the funny thing is Yahoo's missing out on this because they're not doing the first 2 games, but Draftkings and Fanduel, I'll be all over that. Let's talk about the guys that are extremely rosterable here. De'Aaron Fox has been terrific since Gentry's taken over. His role and minutes have been even stronger. He's a respectable 7.9, upper mid-level pricing. Halliburton at 6'1", can throw some good games in. Then you've got a bunch of value guys that make sense. Terrence Davis at 4K has started and played well for them in Gentry's, new entry into the head coaching position. So he's a great value play. Harrison Barnes at 5'4", he has 1 game under his belt coming back from injury. A little riskier there, but his price has not been that low in a long time. Then it seems like this happens every month, and it always gives us a stomach ache. But somehow, some way, regardless of the team, Alex Len has a way to find his way into a starting lineup. Now, we don't know he's starting for sure, but with Holmes sitting out, he may be the starting center here at 3.1. Now, am I recommending going there? Maybe a GPP shot, but I'm not going to recommend going there. I can tell you right now, I'm not with all these great selections because they have such, good options off the bench. I think Tristan Thompson is the big winner of really Holmes being out. He's only 3.5. It looks like the rotation, Gentry really likes him. He's been in there in closing time of games, and he would be the value play I'd go to if I had to choose between Len and Thompson. Of course, Buddy Hield at 5'3" and Davion Mitchell at 3'4" can also be considered. Bagley's getting it a little run at 3'7". But really for me, it's more about the guys I know that are going to be in there. Fox, Halliburton, Davis being 1, 2, 3 that I really like. On the Charlotte side, Cody Martin, both Martin brothers going crazy all of a sudden. One for Charlotte and one in Miami. Who would believe the Martin brothers would be a big talk of the NBA? But Cody's been solid, man. He's 5'7", so he's definitely rosterable. Kelly Ubrey, we all know what he's been doing. He's the guy that stepped up more than anybody in the absence of all these starters being out. He's 7'8", which I don't think is a bad price for a guy that's getting that many shots up and that big of a part of the offense. I think he's a great play. Gordon Hayward at 7-3. He had an awakening this last game where he really stepped up, and I think you can count on him. Miles Bridges is down to 7-7, which is a little bit more realistic. He was getting into some, 8 numbers that were a little bit tough to swallow. Still not going to go with that combination of bench guys, Nick Richards, PJ Washington, Book Knight, those Thor got a lot of minutes at 3-1. I mean, those guys are all playable in GPPs. But for me, in my cash hybrids, I'm focusing on Martin, Ubrey, Hayward, and Bridges, some combination thereof. So, like I say, normally I'm very seldom heavily owned in early games, but it just happens that the best DFS game, in my opinion, on the board is the first game. And I may walk out of this game very likely with 4 guys and then let it roll from there. So, wanted to spend a little extra time on that game because I think it is a key to the slate. All right, game 2 is also a 7 o'clock game, Dallas and Indiana. It is Indiana -2, 212.5 total, 105.25 for Dallas implied, Indiana 107.25. Dallas comes in at 12-12, Indiana at 11-16. Indiana's looking to shake it up. So, if you saw the quotes yesterday, Miles Turner is really complaining, saying he's not valued there. He's ready to move. I know I've seen something similar, not from LeVert, but from the beat writers, that LeVert's going to be gone. So expect LeVert and Turner to move on here by trade. How is that going to affect the rotation right now, and what's going to happen with attitude, etc.? That's what we need to figure out. As far as injuries go, we've got Sterling Brown is questionable. Willie Cauley-Stein is out for Dallas. Justin Holiday, TJ McConnell, and TJ Warren are all out for the Indiana Pacers. Statistically speaking, Dallas slow, 27th, Indiana 18th. Nothing to write home about there. Not very offensive efficient, 20th for Dallas. In middle of the pack, Indiana 14. Defensive rating, dead middle, Dallas 15, Indiana 14. So, the question is, do you look at Luka? That's always a question when you talk Mavs. He's 11K, gets Brogdon defense, and I think Brogdon's pretty decent. He'll get a little bit of LeVert. Maybe, they're going to move people around on him. But Luka is playing better. He's really stepped up huge the last game, but 11K is a little bit tough for me to bite off here. Porzingis is 8K, but he's got, to deal with the double bigs and Sabonis and Turner, and not sure how that's going to play out. You've got Brunson at a fair 5-2 off the bench, Hardaway 5-6. Not strong on the Dallas side for me, although this should be a competitive game. On the Indiana side, bigs against Dallas are a thing. Do you go with Sabonis at 9-7 as the big pay-up guy? He really played a great game last time out. Or Turner at 6-1. Is Turner going to be pissed off and come out and play like a maniac, or is he going to sulk? And now that he said that, is Carlisle going to really, sort of punish him? Watching Carlisle in the past, it doesn't sit well with him when a player goes outside of the locker room and makes a comment like that. So I'm concerned a little bit with Turner's minutes. Now, I know he's going to play and be in the rotation, but I would lean more towards Sabonis. I like that pay up at 9-7. Plus, he's the kind of guy that really hurts the Mavericks inside, a little bit stronger, less finesse, just power. And Sabonis has a little bit of everything. And he can also draw out Porzingis or Powell, whoever's guarding him, and he can knock down a 3. So Sabonis, one of my favorite pay-ups on the slate at 9-7. I think that he wants to solidify that he is part of, the future with Brogdon and Duarte mainly in what Indiana is going to reshuffle and put together. So definitely like the Sabonis side as a big pay-up. And then you can consider a cheap LeVert at 5-8. Duarte at 4-4 had a really good game for me the other day. I think Reggie Bullock will guard LeVert, though, and Bullock can defend, even though he can't drop a ball in the ocean from 3 right now. But Yeah, Duarte probably second choice there, but we'll have some exposure to that game. All right, game 3, Brooklyn and Atlanta. We go to the 7:30 game. So we got the 7 games now that are on the Yahoo slate. The first 2 and these 7 included in Draftkings and Fanduel. Atlanta's favored by 1.5 against Brooklyn, which is a little surprising to me. I thought Brooklyn would be a point or 2 favorite. 226, really nice total, would be a good talk of the town if it wasn't for that Sacramento-Charlotte game. But 226, nothing to scoff at. You've got 112.25 implied for Brooklyn and 113.75 implied for the Atlanta Hawks. Brooklyn comes in 17-8, Atlanta 13-12. Injuries: Joe Harris and Kyrie Irving out. Cam Reddish is probable for Atlanta, so that shuffles a little bit as far as the wing play. But the other 2 wings, Bogdanovich and Hunter, still remain out. Brooklyn is 11th in pace in the league. Atlanta only 21st, which is surprising. They played so fast last year. Offensively efficient teams, though. That's why you've got that 226 total. Brooklyn's 8th and Atlanta's 2nd. So they do score. Both score the ball well. Brooklyn's defense is all the way up to 6th, which is truly an amazing turnaround from when they were 30th for a while last year. And Atlanta is 25th. They've sort of taken the other direction, and they're not defending well whatsoever. So you've got a rested Kevin Durant. That is extremely scary. And James Harden coming off a James Harden kind of game. You know, can you afford either one? Do you play one or the other? I mean, you certainly can. I mean, Harden's 11-2, Durant's 10-8. So it's a monster commitment. And it does, you know, if you're going to play a guy like Sabonis, it's going to make it tough. The pricing it's going to be value, maybe stars and scrubs again. I mean, it's been going that way recently just by necessity. So certainly would, recommend either the Harden or Durant play. Maybe Durant being slight edge just because he's rested and, will probably play 38 minutes at least if this game stays as close as the spread says. So it's hard to get away from him here. He will get some decent defense internally, especially from like Collins Capella, but he's going to be raining threes in those mid-range jumpers too. So Durant certainly, I would say, would be one. Harden 1A. Those guys certainly deserve attention. Patty Mills at 5-1. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Patty Mills at 5-1, man. The guy gets minutes, he gets points, and he's value. So I would consider him. LaMarcus Aldridge, who sat, he's rested at 5-5, but he's got Capella to deal with and Collins, so not as high on him. All the rest of the bench guys for Brooklyn, just too much fear in the rotation. Claxton's back in the rotation. James Johnson, Cam Thomas got a bunch of minutes. So really after Harden and Durant, you can give a peek to Mills. But when you start talking about Bembry, Aldridge, Johnson, Claxton, Thomas, Brown, Millsap, I don't want to get in the mix of all those guys. Just way too tough to try to pick the right guy that's going to just squeak to 5X. On the Atlanta side, you've got Trae Young at 10K, big pay up. Nice matchup for him, though. Kevin Huerter at 5-2. He's solid, but if Cam Reddish is back in there, that hurts him. And TLC, who's at 3-2, don't think you need to really go guys in this situation. I know they get minutes and they're cheaper and it's a high price or a high total game. So, you can consider maybe one of those guys, but let's see what that news is on Reddish. The 2 mid-level price guys, John Collins at 7-2 and Clint Capella at 7-7, both are in play. I think you can consider either one of them for one of your big spots and feel really good about it in this matchup. So I do like this game and I will have exposure. All right, next game, game 4, Knicks and Toronto. Toronto, another close spread here. Toronto favored by 1, but a paltry 207.5 total. 103.25 for the Knicks, 104.25 for Toronto. So I'm not going to waste an enormous amount of time on this game because I don't have a ton of interest in it. Knicks are 12-13, Toronto 11-14. Nerlens Noel is probable, so you've got all that mix of bigs in the Knicks. That's a headache. We do need the news on Achua. He's questionable. That did raise up Birch a little bit, and Siakam and such. So let's get that news. Champagne, with the greatest name in the league, he's questionable. Anunoby, Birch, and Dragic are all out. So for this game, again, not a ton of time to waste here. Burks at 6'4" is getting the majority of minutes at point, but you still have all those guys playing minutes in rows and quickly, and it's a mess there. With Noel, Robinson, and Gibson, all those guys playing, again, it's just shared minutes all across the board. Don't trust Fournier or Barrett enough on a slate this big. So I will be Nicholas more than likely, and not Jack Nicklaus, New York Nicholas in this game. Fred VanVleet at 8'8", a little too pricey for me in this slow of a game. Gary Trent's drifted up to 6'1". If he's hot, he's gonna score some buckets, and he can be considered. Scotty Barnes, man, he looks better and better every game. He may be one of the best players to come out of this draft. He really may be. He's a triple-double type of guy eventually, but at 7'6", it's going to be a little rough in this slow of a pace. If Achua sits and a lot of it falls in Siakam's lap again at 8'5", you can give him a consideration, but it is a little risky. After that, if you want to try to get value, Achua himself, if he plays without a minutes restriction at 4.6, Boucher at 4, Watanabe at 3.1. You can talk about those guys, but again, very likely going to come out of this game with zero coverage. All right, Detroit Pistons and the New Orleans Pelicans at 8 o'clock. New Orleans is favored by 6. It's a 212 total implied for Detroit, 103 for the Pelicans, 109. As far as records, Detroit at a nifty 4-20, Pelicans at 7-20. So somehow these two teams have already combined for 40 losses. So that is not a whole lot of fun. Kelly Olynyk remains out for the Pistons. Holmes, Luzada, and Cheeseburgers Williamson for the Pelicans, all out. How do we look at this game? Is it exciting? Not really, to be honest with you. You got two bad teams here. We've got nobody tonight so far on back-to-backs except for Sacramento in that first game. I did not mention that, but I wanted to mention it now. Do I think that's a big deal? No. Gentry's not a rest guy. Sacramento's got younger legs. I don't think that's an issue, but none of the other teams we've talked about so far are on any side of any back-to-backs. They're all on island games, except the Kings being on the first night. So you've got two super young teams, island games. They're just not that good. You've got Detroit 14th in pace, Pelicans 19th, offensive efficiency horrible, 29th and 26th. But the defenses suck, 24th and 30th, dead last for the Pels. So, there's some definite gems you could pluck out of this game. Cade Cunningham at 7'5", interesting for sure. Jeremy Grant at 7'4", Isaiah Stewart at 5'4". I think all those guys are worth mentioning. On the Pelicans side, Brandon Ingram, a little pricey at 8.7, but I expect him to have a nice game here. Joe Val at 8K can be definitely considered. This is the kind of game he really does well in. Herbert Jones at 4K is interesting for me. He'll definitely at least make a GPP. He's getting more minutes and becoming a little bit stronger of a DFS player because he can, get some stocks for you. And he's only, like I say, that 4,000. After that, you got some bench guys, but, a little exposure here, maybe pluck out somebody like a Cade Cunningham or Brandon Ingram to really booster your lineup. All right, next game, another 8 o'clock game, Cleveland, Minnesota. Minnesota by 1. All these close spreads today are going to make these games a lot of fun. The total's only 213, though, 106 implied for Cleveland, 107 for Minnesota. Cleveland comes in at 14-12, the surprise of the NBA. Minnesota at a respectable 11-14. They're trying to scratch their way back into being relative. Minnesota's on the first night of a back-to-back. I'm sorry, Cleveland is on their first night of a back-to-back. Minnesota is on an island game. Is that going to affect anybody here? I don't know. I doubt it because Cleveland is not showing any injuries. Minnesota has Pat Bev probable. And the big news that we need that's very important, D'Angelo Russell is questionable, and that shifts that entire usage scheme for the Minnesota Timberwolves. Statistically speaking, in this game, Cleveland's 26th pace, Minnesota 6th. So nice pace up for Cleveland. Offensive efficiency for these two younger teams is not good, 21-24. That's usually the theme. And defensively, they're getting after it. Cleveland is a fantastic 4th, and Minnesota's up to 11th. So a lot different. These two teams played last year. This would have been a 235 game. They were like 27th and 29th in the league in defense. And now here they are 4th and 11th. So a big difference from last season, no question about it. Who can you look for here? Garland's been super steady, 7-3, but he's probably going to get Pat Bev agitation for a bunch of this game. So that's not going to help matters, but he has been clutch. Lauri Markkanen's priced well at 5.7. And then the two bigs, you've got a, potential for either one of these guys to go off. Evan Mobley 6.8 and Jared Allen 7.8. So for those that are looking at a medium price build, those two guys, one of them for sure, would be in play for you. On the Minnesota side, if Russell sits, Anthony Edwards at 8.4 becomes the go-to guy. I've mentioned that on several times. If Russell plays, he's $9K, which is a little pricey. And when Russell, Edwards, and Cat play, it's hard because Cat's 10-3. So Minnesota really is in that situation. Like, when you have the big three or big four, it's hard to really spend up and expect, just one of those guys to go through the roof and not share it with the others. Jared Vanderbilt's also been playing terrific ball. He's 5.2 now, but, he's a sneaky guy that can get you 30, 35 fantasy points and go 7-8X. So I do like this side of the ball, but, again, not racing to this game because I think these two teams are deliberately trying to slow it down a bit and play better defense. But, let's see what the news is on Russell and determine if we want to try to go with a one-off in this one. All right, another 8 o'clock game. There's like a million 8 o'clock games. There's actually two more still, with this one being the Lakers and Thunder. You've got one of the oldest teams in NBA history in the Lakers and one of the youngest teams in NBA history, the Thunder, squaring off. Lakers are only favored by 5.5. That is pretty sad state of affairs for the Lakers. It's a 217 total, and implied for the Lakers is 111.25, for Oklahoma City 105.75. What I think Vegas is screaming is we expect some of these Lakers guys to sit, and maybe even more than one, and I do too. I'm just waiting to hear who's it going to be, LeBron and Davis. Do they give Westbrook a game off? I don't know, but a combination of these guys are going to sit. I could guarantee you they will not go into the Thunder game with a full roster. I'd be shocked if that happens. So we'll see. No news yet. Nothing whatsoever. It's morning, so we still got a long time. The big thing, too, you got to remember, Lakers are on the second night of a back-to-back. So it's the Thunder. It's the second night of a back-to-back and the oldest team in the league. So, it's hard to give any description to the Lakers here until we know who's actually going to sit. The Lakers, by the way, are 13-13. The Thunder are 8-16. So that one, isn't that bad considering. As of now, we already know Rondo's questionable, Ariza none out, and none of the teenagers from the Thunder are injured. So, what do we want to discuss here? Lakers are 10th in pace, the Thunder 12th. So that's not bad at all. 23rd and 30 in offensive efficiency, not what we want to hear. Lakers are only 12th in defense, the Thunder 21st. So that does open up the avenues a bit for some scoring. Again, let's see who sits out. If two of the three bigs of Westbrook, James, and Davis sit, then, lock and load the third guy. If just one of them sits, then, we need to look at this. The interior with Baisley and Robinson Earl defensively for the Thunder, and then, leaves a lot to be desired. So Davis could be a target, but I think he's also the guy that may sit. We have to see that. How is LeBron going to do if he plays in a back-to-back? If Davis or Russell sit, then you go that direction. Westbrook, it is in Oklahoma City. That's his home base. That's where he has all his ties and, people, family. He's got all kind of restaurant there. He's got a bunch of advertising gigs. So it is his hometown now, adopted hometown, if you will. So Russ is, at 10-2, he's been so bad, though, and he's more than LeBron and Davis, which is mind-bending to me. LeBron's 9-8 and Davis is 9-6. So the only way I play Westbrook here is if at least one of those other guys sit. I do think, he'll do well because, he really feeds off that Oklahoma City crowd and they absolutely love him. I mean, I've been there for games in person when he's played and they just go crazy. So I'd love to say I'm definitely going to roster him, but he's been so inconsistent. And at that 10-2 price, it scares me. But that narrative of being at home is big for him. And he's certainly going to be considered. The greatest thing in the world would be if James and Davis sat. I would put Westbrook and Dwight Howard in there, and I'd feel so happy, and maybe even Horton Tucker at 4-9. So, once we see how that all shakes out. But if guys do sit, the two guys I like the most are Horton Tucker, 4-9, and Malik Monk at 4-8. They're not super cheap, but I think they can get good numbers if they have the opportunity. On the Oklahoma City side, it's the same thing. Do you go to Shea at 8-2? If this game's going to stay close, he's going to have a big game. He is their man. So he's definitely, can be in consideration here. I think he's a nice play. Dort at 5-5 and Giddey at 6-4 would be the only other two Thunder players that I'd be interested in. Dort is hit and miss a little more. Giddey had sat with an injury, but he's back now. If he gets good enough run and the game stays close, he is a triple-double potential kind of guy. So definitely want some exposure here, but it's all going to be determined on what news breaks as the day goes on. All right, the last 8 o'clock game is the Milwaukee Bucks and the Houston Rockets. You've got Houston on the first night of a back-to-back island game for Milwaukee. Milwaukee's favored by 8. A nice 225.5 total here. So we have all kinds of good games to choose from today. 116.75 implied for Milwaukee, 108.75 for the Houston Rockets. As far as records coming into this game, Milwaukee's up to 16-10 after a slow start. They're playing well. Rockets are 8-16. We have Giannis listed as probable. We have George Hill listed as questionable. Then DiVincenzo, Lopez, and Ojale remain out. The guys out for Houston: Garuba, Green, House, Porter, and Wall. So still shorthanded on the guard side for sure. As far as statistically, you got great pace here. Milwaukee 8th and Houston 1st. So pace up game for Milwaukee. That doesn't happen that often. That makes this game fun. Offensive efficiency, Milwaukee 10th, Houston 27. Milwaukee's up to 8th defensively, so that stings a little on rostering many Houston guys, but Houston is 20th, so, definitely potential. The big thing is, does this game stay close enough? It's in Houston. If it stays close enough, it's going to be a great game to roster people. If it blows out and you don't get that last 6-7 minute run from guys like Giannis and Middleton and Holiday, it's going to bite you in the backside. So that's really the game scripting has to be figured here. How do you see this flying? I personally think, Milwaukee handles this game a little easier than what the spread says. I think, 15, 18-point victory, I think, is well in hand for Milwaukee. I know Houston's been doing it with mirrors lately, but, when you're looking at a possible starting lineup of Brooks and Gordon, Eric Gordon played well for us the last time out. Garrison Matthews has been out of his mind the last few games. He's going to be the guy that everybody runs to. But is that a trap? That scares me. I mean, he's the glory boy for the day and going to get way over-owned. I get it at 4-4, but I smell Trap City. Jayshawn Tate at 6-9, and then Christian Wood's been terrific at 9-3, but he gets that Giannis and Portis interior defense, which doesn't make me want to run to him to pay up. Şengün, Martin, Augustine, those guys off the bench, nothing makes you, excited there. Eric Gordon's the one guy that I will say that I have some interest in because he's still super cheap at 5.5. His usage with mainly, the guards off the floor for Houston that are all out hurt in Green and Porter, Gordon's usage goes through the roof. So he's hard, in projections here to pass up. So he's very well may make my lineup again. And he was on pace to go 9X last game. And then he got thrown out in the third quarter with 2 technicals. So, he would be the guy from Houston that I target here. And really the guy that has the most interest. On the Milwaukee side, I do love the big pay-up guys. I do, but I just don't know if I want to get there in a game that could blow out. Holiday at 7-9 is reasonable. I could go there. Middleton at 7-3 is, still nice and affordable. Would love to go there. Giannis at 10-9 is a little high. And as much as I like Bobby Portis at 7-1, he's now up into that mid-range pricing. This is going to be the risk-reward game for a lot of people. Either, you're going to roster guys here, it's going to stay close, and it can be a pivotal game. Or if you're going to do more like I'm initially planning, of fading it somewhat, maybe one off here. It can bite you and sink you, but you can't play all the big games. I'd love to say, yeah, let's take the top 5 games tonight and just smash them with a bunch of players. You have to make some decisions based on game scripting and of the huge total games, which there is 3 or 4 of them. I think this one has the best chance to blow out, which, is a bit of a concern. So I'm treading lightly. I'll be holding my breath on that game one way or the other. If I can fit a Middleton or Holiday, I'd do it in a heartbeat and follow it with Gordon on the other side. But that is yet to be determined, my friends. All right, last game, 9th game. It's the only night game 2 hours later than everybody else. So it's a 10 o'clock Boston Phoenix. Should be a really fun game to watch. Boston comes in as an underdog. Phoenix favored by 5. The total's 216, 105.5 for Boston, 110.5 for the Phoenix Suns. Boston comes in at 13-13. Phoenix at a ridiculous 20-4. And I remind you, they were 1-3. So 19-1 in their last 20. Unbelievable. Injuries, Jaylen Brown and Bruno Fernando remain out for the Phoenix Suns. The main man, Devin Booker, is out. Kaminsky, Nader, and Saric are also out. So we know pretty much the lay of the land without any surprising news in this game. So we can take a look at it from there. Boston is 20th in pace, Phoenix 4th. So good pace up for Boston, pace down for sure for Phoenix. Offensive efficiency, Boston in the middle of the pack at 15th, Phoenix at 5th. But both teams are playing good D. Boston's 10th, Phoenix 2nd. So that is a little bit of a concern. Don't want to put too many eggs in this late night basket, but having a little exposure would be very nice. You've got Schroeder at 6'5", I think is a playable commodity here. He's really been shooting the ball well. He was a little tight when he played the Lakers, but other than that, he's been good. He bounced back the last game to play well. Jason Tatum is a phenomenal pay-up guy. He's of the two, he'll be one of three. I'm going to go with 2 out of 3 guys as my pay-ups. He's the third, maybe not making it or maybe bumping one of the other guys. But he's 9-9, and he's the focal point of their offense. With Brown out, he is their go-to guy. My only concern is he's going to get harassment from Mikal Bridges, little help from Jay Crowder, and Phoenix is second in the league in defense. So that's the concern. That doesn't mean Brown is a pass. I still think Brown, has to be a focal point here if they're going to keep this game close. So on the fence there, looking at it as a possible pay up for me, but haven't, really locked it in yet. Al Horford at 6'7", Robert Williams at 5'6" can be considered. Not really interested in the bench of Boston. Enes Freedom, not in play for me, but I just wanted to say his name. So there you go. Phoenix, Chris Paul at 8'3", a little pricey, but interested, especially with Booker off the floor. He has to take a little more offense on his shoulders. So Paul is a potential play. Mikal Bridges, I think, is fair at 5'6", but he's going to get Tatum defense. So maybe they eliminate each other. I know Bridges is that good defensively. On DeAndre Ayton, very fair at 7'5". I mean, I think he gets some attention here. Cam Johnson is shown to be very valuable off the bench, splitting time a bit with Landry Shamet. But I like Johnson better than Shamet. He is more expensive at 4'6", but he can have some in the right matchups. The thing with Chris Paul at 8'3", also Marcus Smart defense, also a little annoying. So this game is as nice as it is, and as much as I want exposure here, the chips don't all align as much like they did in some of these other earlier games. So I may find myself with some secondary plays here, like a Bridges or Williams or Horford or somebody in that nature, or Cam Johnson, but probably not the big boys, really, the more and more I talk myself out of it. So that's what it looks like. We've got 9 games again, all set here on this schedule. Just as a reminder, if you can take a minute, really super appreciate it on YouTube, thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and then give us that comment. Let us know what you think. Do you enjoy the podcast? Do you have suggestions, stuff you want in, stuff you want out? I would love to hear that. That would make a big difference for me. We want to make this the best time you spend for your DFS lineups for the entire day. We want to be your go-to play. So definitely let us know what that feedback is. If you want to sign up, again, as little as a 3-day pass for $10, then you get Football Sunday involved with that. Go to dfscoachtalk.com and you can sign up right there. Also, tomorrow is going to be a terrific slate. We have 7 total NBA games, 6 on the main slate. And tomorrow is my favorite NBA podcast of the week. It is Mr. Josh Crash Davis and I will be on tomorrow morning. We'll be going over that 6-game main slate for Saturday night. We'll also build a 2 brains are better than 1 lineup on FanDuel for a GPP play. So definitely join us for that. Keep an eye out for some emails coming your way. Our man John Weehausen is putting together a Christmas offering that's going to be a real special deal for some people that want to join in for the rest of the football and basketball season. So we really appreciate the time you spend with us. It doesn't go for naught, and we hope that this helps you build some winners. Let us know about those winners so we can show you some love. And definitely tune in again tomorrow as we look to crush it in NBA DFS.